Credit card debt can be a distant memory if you follow these easy tips. Welcome to Gary Talks Money, the finance channel without the gimmicks. My name is Gary, and today we're going to be continuing a 4-part series on credit card debt that I started a few weeks back. This is video number 2 in that 4-part series. In the last video, we covered the first 3 steps in the debt payoff process, and today we're going to cover 3 more. If you haven't already seen that first video, I definitely recommend checking it out. I'll have a link to the video up there and down in the description below. If you're interested in following along with this series, I've actually put together an easy 12-step debt payoff worksheet that covers all the information I'm going to be talking about in these videos. The worksheet is totally free and it's available on my website. If you want to check it out, a link will be in the description below. All right, now that you're up to speed, let's go ahead and jump right into the next 3 steps. All right, welcome back to the debt payoff video series. In our last video, which happened to be the first in the series, we covered the first 3 steps in the debt payoff process. Those 3 steps were, number 1, stop the spending. Number 2, track your debt. And number 3, develop a budget. So if you've come this far, pat yourself on the back. Congratulations, you've already done a big amount of work to get here, and you're doing great. So the first 3 steps were really instrumental to get us to where we are right now. Step number 1, stop the spending. We plugged the hole at the bottom of the bucket and we stopped all that non-essential spending. Step number 2, we developed a system to track the debt that we have. We've put it either in a spreadsheet or some sort of debt tracking program, and we know exactly how much money we owe. And step number 3, develop a budget. Very similar to step 2, we use some sort of spreadsheet program or some sort of tracking program to set up a budget so that we can tell our money where to go. So as I said, if you've gotten to these 3 steps in the process so far, you've done absolutely fantastic. And we're going to build on that momentum, and we're going to move on to step 4, which is called define your repayment scope. So step number 4 focuses on telling our money where to go. Similar to the budgeting process, we want to take a closer look at the amount of money that we owe, and we want to start to define what debt we want to pay off. So an example that I like to give is dividing your debt up into repayment categories, or waves as I've called them in the worksheet, such as paying off your credit card debt first, your personal loans second, and your student loans third. What you're going to do is you're going to prioritize the debt that you want to pay off first. Ideally, you should be aiming to pay off your highest interest debts first. These are going to be things like credit cards and unsecured personal loans. Now, what do I mean by unsecured? There are 2 types of debt mainly. One is called secured debt, and the other is called unsecured debt. Secured debt is going to be something like an auto loan or a home mortgage, where the item that you're purchasing is used as collateral. Essentially, what that means is if you default on your loan, the bank has some sort of recourse or some sort of property that they can take or repossess to satisfy the loan. So let's say you haven't paid your car payment for a little while, or maybe you've stopped making your mortgage payments. What the bank is going to do is they're going to use that lien that they have on your property or on your item that you've purchased from them. They're going to use that as legal authorization to repossess that item. And they're going to come and they're going to either foreclose on your home, or they're going to take back the car, the boat, the ATV, whatever item that you have financed with them. So that's secured debt. Unsecured debt is a whole different animal. That's going to be something like a credit card or a personal loan where no collateral is put up. Now, typically, secured loans are going to have lower interest rates than unsecured loans. That's because they are inherently safer for the bank, because they have something to fall back onto if you stop paying the loan. So, a home mortgage or a car payment is going to have a much lower interest rate than something like a credit card or a personal loan. Because if you default on a credit card or a personal loan, the chance of the bank recovering that money back is much lower than if you had a mortgage or a car payment, for instance. With all that being said, you should be aiming to pay off your higher interest debts like credit cards and personal loans first, because as I said, they're going to tend to have much higher interest rates than things like car payments or mortgages. As we're going through and we're prioritizing what type of debt we want to pay off, we are defining our repayment scope. We can basically leave out our longer term debts. We can leave out those things like home mortgages and auto loans until our other debts are paid off. Now, ideally, we would definitely want to come back at the end of this credit card payoff process and look at those other loans that we have, whether it be an auto loan or a home mortgage, and see whether it's possible to work toward an early payoff for those loans as well. But right now, we're focusing primarily on unsecured debt like credit cards and personal loans, and we want to try to pay those off because it's going to cost us more to hold on to that debt. Now that we've taken a look at the types of debt that we have and we've prioritized which debt we want to pay off first, I want to direct your attention back to step number 2 and our debt tracker. Ideally, you should be using your debt tracker throughout this entire process. You should not just be using it during step 2. You should be coming back to your debt tracker throughout this debt payoff process, updating it, keeping it fresh. That way you know exactly where you are and what your progress is towards repayment. The great thing about this 12-step process is that while each step can stand alone, they work better together. So make sure you're frequently going back to step 2, you're updating your debt tracker, and you're keeping all of that information current so you have the best picture of what's happening with your repayment process. Now that we've taken care of step number 4, it's time to move on to the 5th step in this 12-step payoff process. Step number 5 is called Pick a Payoff Strategy, and this is a very, very important part of this 12-step payoff process because we're going to choose how we are going to be attacking our payoff process, how we're going to be attacking our debt, and how we're going to get to the finish line. The gist of step number 5 is that it will allow us to figure out exactly how we want to pay off the debt that we've identified in step number 4, our previous step. Now in step number 4, we took all of our debt and we focused it down, we refined it into a repayment scope. Step number 5, we're going to be looking at exactly how we're going to attack that debt. So in step number 5, there are 3 main debt payoff methods that I want you to know about. Debt payoff method number 1 is called the debt snowball method. Debt payoff number 2 is called the avalanche method. And debt payoff method number 3 is called the debt consolidation method. Now, all 3 of these methods are very different, and we're going to go through and we're going to break down what makes all of these methods different, but I want you to have a high-level overview of what they are before we get started. Essentially, the debt snowball method focuses on paying off debts smallest to largest. The avalanche method does the exact opposite. It pays off debts largest to smallest. And finally, the debt consolidation method looks for a new loan to lump all of our existing debts into. So it's usually an unsecured personal loan or some type of consolidation loan. We take all of our payments and we lump them together into one single loan with one monthly payment and one payoff date. So that's what consolidation is. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at each of these 3 methods and see the advantages and disadvantages of each of them. Now, the very first debt payoff method that we're going to talk about is called the debt snowball method. And as I mentioned, the debt snowball method focuses on repaying your smallest debts back first, as quickly as possible. Now, one of the advantages of the debt snowball method is it allows you to pay off some of your debt right away. And that can give a lot of people a big confidence boost that they need to keep going in the process. Now, while this method does give you an early little ego boost and a little bit of confidence in the beginning, it can actually cost you more money in the end because it focuses on paying off small debts first, regardless of what the interest rate is. So, for example, let's take a look at 3 different example credit cards. Let's say you have card number 1 that has a $2,500 balance with a 28.99% APR. Let's say you have card number 2 that has a $600 balance with a 19.99% APR. And finally, you have a third credit card, card number 3, that has an $1,800 balance with a 26.49% APR. The debt snowball method will look at that smallest balance and pay it off first. Now, in this example, that would be card number 2 with the $600 balance and the 19.99% APR. Now, as I mentioned, a big advantage of the debt snowball method is you've knocked out $600 of your total debt and you're well on your way to paying off more of it. And what you would probably do next is you would go and save up and pay off that next $1,800 card, and then after that you would pay off the final $2,500 card. The problem with that is that, as you can see, all three of these cards have different interest rates, or APRs, annual percentage rates, and it happens to be that our highest balance card has the highest APR. So what we could do instead is pivot to another method, which is called the avalanche method. The avalanche method actually focuses on repaying the highest interest debt and the largest debt first. So your snowball method focuses on paying off small debts first. The avalanche method focuses on paying off the largest and highest interest debt first. So instead of paying off card number 2 with that $600 balance, if we were using the avalanche method, we would actually pay off card number 1 that has that highest $2,500 balance and that highest 28.99% APR. The thinking behind this, of course, being the higher the balance and the higher the APR, the more interest you will be accumulating on that credit card and the more money you will owe eventually. So, the avalanche method wants to knock out that high interest, high balance card first so that you're saving yourself some money. Of course, if you're using the avalanche method, the next card that you would focus on is card number 3 with that $1,800 balance, and you would finish out with card number 2 with the $600 balance, and you would completely pay off all of your debt. Now, the big advantage of using the avalanche method over the snowball method is you are more than likely going to save money on interest in the long term. Now, the one slight disadvantage of the avalanche method is that it is a slower, more tedious payoff process than using the snowball method. With the snowball method, you see immediate progress. You knocked out that $600 card, you're feeling like you're on top of the world and you're making progress. You're going to be more likely to probably continue that payoff streak because you feel good about the progress that you've made. The slight disadvantage of using the avalanche method is your first payoff is going to be $2,500 instead of $600. So it's going to take you a lot longer to get to that payoff for the first card than it would using the snowball method. However, you're going to have to judge what is a priority for you, a quick initial payoff or a cheaper long-term payoff solution. My recommendation of the two methods, either the snowball method or the avalanche method, is my preference is with the avalanche method because you are going to save yourself some money. Now, you have to be a little bit more patient. It's going to take a little bit longer to pay off that first card, but you are going to see progress after that, and it will be downhill from there. So, if you have the patience, pick the avalanche method of those two. Now, the third of these three methods is called the debt consolidation method, and it's probably the most different of the three. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, the debt consolidation method focuses on refinancing your debt into a single lower interest account with one monthly payment. Now, the great thing about the debt consolidation method is that it allows you to have a single predictable monthly payment. However, there is a big drawback and disadvantage if you're not careful, and that is that it can take longer to pay your debt off, and depending on the term that you choose, it could actually cost you more than just paying off the credit cards individually. Now, if you're considering using the debt consolidation method to pay off your credit card debt, I want you to consider a few things before you pull the trigger on a debt consolidation loan. I want you to look at the interest rate and see if it is lower than the interest rate that you're currently paying on all of your credit cards. If you're paying a 22% interest rate on your credit card and you are looking to get a debt consolidation loan with a 25% interest rate, that doesn't make sense. Your credit card has a lower annual percentage rate than that personal loan would have, that debt consolidation loan would have. So there's no reason to pay more for a debt consolidation loan. If you can just pay the monthly payment or a little bit more, you will save yourself some money by just keeping the credit card. The next thing I want you to look at when you're looking at the possibility of getting a personal loan or a debt consolidation loan is I want you to see if there are any origination fees or costs associated with that loan. Many banks and loan originators will charge a fee for processing your application and getting the underwriting of the loan done. Ideally, you want to find yourself a loan that doesn't have a fee attached to it, because these underwriting and origination fees can be quite expensive if you're not careful. Some of them can be in the hundreds of dollars, and that money is taken out of the proceeds of the loan to pay for it. So ideally, you want to try to find a loan that doesn't have extra fees or costs associated with it. Another thing you want to look at is whether the loan that you're interested in taking out has a prepayment penalty. Essentially, what a prepayment penalty is a fee that is charged to you if you try to pay off your loan early. You absolutely do not want to take out a loan that has a prepayment penalty if you're planning on paying off that loan earlier than the advertised term. Now, let's say you're interested in getting a loan with a 48-month term, but you're actually planning on paying it off in just 36 months. If you take out that loan and you don't realize that there's a prepayment penalty attached to it, and you try to go pay off that loan early, you're going to be hit with a hefty fee. So it's very important to do your homework and check in advance if there are prepayment penalties for any of the loans that you're considering. The next thing that I want you to consider is how long is it going to take me to pay off this loan, and what will the final cost be? You want to take a close, hard look and see if it's actually going to be worth it compared to just keeping your credit cards and paying them off individually. You absolutely want to make sure that you're actually going to be saving money by getting one of these debt consolidation loans instead of paying off your credit cards individually. So take a look at the interest rates, do the math, see how long the term for the loan that you're interested in is, and make sure that you're not going to be overpaying. Something to keep in mind is that while a personal loan can be easier to manage than multiple credit card payments, there is a good chance that it's going to cost you more the longer you stretch the term out. So if you're considering a personal loan, you want to try to make that loan term as short as possible. Look for a 12 or 24-month term. Don't go for the longer terms like 4 or 5 years, if at all possible, because the longer you drag it out, the more interest you're going to be charged and the worse deal you're going to be getting. All right, now that we've taken a look at step number 5 and we've picked a debt payoff method that works for us, we're going to move on to step number 6, which is a very short step, and it is called project a payoff date. And this is the fun step because it lets you see where the light is at the end of the tunnel, and it lets you get a little glimmer of hope when the debt payoff process is going to be finished. Once again, we're going to go back to steps number 2 and 3 in this 12-step process, and we're going to look at our debt tracker and our budget as a reference, and we're going to project a payoff date based on the debts that you are intending to pay off. So what you want to do is you want to look at what debts you're interested in paying off, how much money you're going to be putting towards them, and you're going to divide those numbers out and see exactly how long it's going to take to pay off your debt. What you're going to do is you're going to take that projected payoff date and you're going to use it to monitor your payoff progress and stay on track. If you notice that you're falling behind, you want to go back to that debt tracker, you want to see what went wrong. Did you somehow miss payments? Did you pay too little? What exactly happened? You want to make adjustments so that you can stay on track. All right, that about wraps it up for steps number 4 through 6. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, please be sure to slap that like button and let me know down in the comments section below. If you have a personal finance question of your own, definitely let me know down in the comments section below and I'll try to help you out if I can. Don't forget about that free 12-step debt payoff worksheet. It is of course linked down in the description below. If you're interested in watching more of my videos, be sure to check out some playlists that are down there as well. Until next time guys, take care and I'll see you later.